deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA, that you would be able to understand the scope of DNA in forensic science, and you would be able to understand what is National DNA Index System and what is Combined Index System, and what are the scientific advances and expanded application of DNA analysis in forensic science. As you know, deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA is the fundamental building block for an individual's entire genetic makeup. DNA is a powerful tool for law enforcement investigations because each person's DNA is different from that of every other individual except for identical twin. DNA can be extracted from a number of sources such as hair, bone, teeth, blood and other body fluids. Because the human body contains so many copies of DNA, even a minute amount of bodily fluid or tissue can yield useful information. Obtaining a DNA sample is not necessarily invasive. It can be as simple as a swab of the inside of the mouth to obtain saliva. State and federal DNA databases have proved instrumental in solving crimes, reducing the risk of convicting the wrong person and establishing the innocence of those wrongly convicted. DNA evidence is used to solve crime in two ways. Number one, in cases where a suspect is known, a sample of that person's DNA can be compared to biological evidence found at a scene of crime. The result of this comparison may then help to establish whether the suspect was at the scene of crime or whether he or she has committed the crime. Secondly, in cases where a suspect is not known, biological evidence from the crime scene can be analyzed and compared to offender's profile contained in existing DNA databases to assist in identifying the culprit. Discuss the National DNA Index System, in short NDIS, and the Combined DNA Index System, in short CODIS. In 1980s, United States began enacting laws that required DNA samples from those offenders convicted of certain sexual offenses and other violent crime. As a result, their samples were taken and analyzed and their profile were entered into state databases. Meanwhile, the FBI laboratory convened a working group of federal, state and local forensic scientists to establish guidelines for the use of forensic DNA analysis in laboratories. The group proposed guidelines that are the basis of current national quality assurance standards, and it urged the creation of National DNA Database. In 1994, Congress authorized the FBI to establish and oversee the National DNA Index System. The National DNA Index System allows participating laboratories to compare DNA on a national level, while the State DNA Index System allows each state to compare DNA profile stored at state level. Federal, state and local laboratories upload and compare DNA profile using Combined DNA Index System software produced and distributed by FBI. CODIS searches 3 indexes: convicted offenders, arrestees and forensic samples to provide investigative lead. The convicted offender index contains DNA profile developed from sample collected from convicted offenders. Arrestee index matches can occur between either the convicted offender or arrestees indexes and the forensic index, thereby providing law enforcement with the identity of one or more suspects. Also, matches can occur between DNA profile in the forensic index, thereby linking crime scene to each other and identifying serial offenders. Matches between multiple samples in the forensic index can allow law enforcement agencies in different jurisdictions to coordinate their efforts and share leads. No names or other personal identifiers for offender and arrestees except DNA profile are stored in the National DNA Index System. So, when a match is found in CODIS, the laboratories that submitted the DNA profile to the NDIS are notified for match and they contact each other to verify the match and coordinate their efforts. The scientific advancement and expansion of application of DNA analysis are as under. The DNA testing is a powerful technology for linking a suspect to a violent crime, determining serial crimes, reconstructing an accident, and exculpating the innocent. A few non-traditional applications of DNA technology that may assist in investigation today and in the future all are discussed. The use of DNA in lesser offenses. The New York City Police Department leveraged DNA technology to solve crime not usually associated with DNA analysis such as burglary, assault, arrestee index, larceny. The New York Police Department laboratory started BioTrack program as a pilot project focused on one particular geographic area, Queens County, where crime scene response team were trained to identify probative items that might contain biological evidence, for example, cigarette butts, clothing and drink container with possible saliva, and to submit them to the laboratory for processing. The goal of BioTrack program were to number 1, solve crime of lesser offenses, that is crime for which physical evidence is often not collected or when collected is not usually submitted to DNA analysis, and secondly to determine the extent to which DNA from the scene of crime could be linked to more serious crimes such as rapes or homicides. The program obtained a hit rate of over 30% and identified linkages between lesser offenses with open rape and homicide cases. The BioTrack program provided valuable leads for law enforcement resulting in arrest and conviction. Feline and canine DNA. Current method used to identify dog and cat biological material are nuclear STR analysis and mitochondrial DNA analysis. These techniques use the same procedure as are used by crime laboratories worldwide to identify human biological material. Animal DNA evidence is most often contributed when the animal falls victim to a crime. For example, shooting death of dog during burglary or when animal is a companion to a suspect. For example, shedding of animal hair at the scene of crime. In 2002, Danielle Van Dam was reported missing from her home in San Diego, California. She was found dead in a remote area 25 days later. David Westerfield, the Van Dam's family's neighbor, was arrested. Among other evidence, investigator had discovered dog hair similar to Van Dam's V Manor dog in Westerfield motor home on a quilt and in the lint trap of his dryer. Canine STR typing performed by Veterinary Genetic Laboratory at University of California at Davis was successful. Mitochondrial DNA match between the evidence here and Van Dam family dog was entered as evidence. Missing persons DNA database. University of North Texas Health Science Center has created the Texas Missing Person DNA Database and Mitochondrial DNA Database that contributes mitochondrial DNA data to national database for searches of missing persons. The objective of this database is to assist in identification of kidnapped children, runaway children, and unidentified human skeletons. A national missing persons DNA database is administered by the FBI. DNA exemplars from missing persons are searched against unidentified human remains. For example, if a crime victim's remains are recovered from a shallow grave or a deceased victim is found with no form of identification with the body, the DNA profile of the unknown victim is searched against the missing person DNA data for identification. Near match searching, close biological relatives, parents. DNA has also application in near match searching, in which close biological relatives, parents, children and siblings are known to have similar DNA profile. Near match searching linked two of the September 11, 2001 American Airlines Flight 11 hijackers as being brothers. Florida has used near match searching to identify the fathers of several babies born to rape victims. Now we talk about DNA match and criminal history record information. As you know, individual's DNA has the potential to reveal genetic information about that individual and his or her family. The eugenics argument that genes, unlike fingerprint patterns, contain information about an individual racial and ethnic heritage, disease susceptibility and even behavioral propensities. Insurance companies, employers or government agencies might raid the data for health related information, leading to genetic discrimination against individuals or groups. Therefore, CODIS does not store criminal history information. The next point is criminal history record information and DNA match. In US, state criminal history record typically include an identification segment with a provision to record and display some, if not all, of the following personally identifying descriptive elements, like number 1 name, next FBI number, state identification number, correctional number, social security number, miscellaneous identification number, driver's license number, place of birth, date of birth, country of citizen, sex, race, height, weight, eye color, hair color, skin tone, fingerprint pattern, photo available, scars, marks and tattoos, employment information and residence. What about sharing information between CODIS, AFIS and criminal history system, the potential benefits of these? The technologies of DNA database, fingerprint comparison and criminal history record system are highly effective. These automated searches and comparison have become routine in United States. The exchange of limited information among CODIS, AFIS and criminal history records provides benefits derived from increased connectivity among different forensic technologies. The major benefit is the potential to increase the accuracy, timeliness and utility of information provided to the criminal justice community. More hits, more exclusions and higher certainty of identification can be obtained by combining two identification technologies, CODIS and AFIS, with criminal history databases. An accurate identity and criminal history of the offender is critical for the acquisition of DNA sample. Technology can provide an electronic comparison of the databases, criminal history, CODIS and AFIS to identify who is required to provide sample and who has already provided sample for databases. This connection of the AFIS, CODIS and criminal history databases is even more critical when applied to violent crime and sexual offender registers. Law enforcement can then work more effectively and accurately to obtain DNA sample, providing more timely leads to criminal investigation. The whole topic can be summarized in following points. The use of DNA testing for linking a suspect to the violent crime, determining serial crimes, reconstructing an accident and exculpating the innocent has proved the powerful technology. Crime scene response team are required to be trained to identify probative items that might contain biological evidence, for example, cigarette butts, clothing, drink container with possible saliva, and submit them to the laboratory for processing. An individual's DNA has the potential to reveal genetic information about that individual and his or her family.